Hello everyone. Introducing ourselves, we, Hanis, and aim, choose the determination of the age of fossil, by using carbon-14 dating method as our main topic for our assignment. Let's check out what we have.
In a lost land of tropical forests, lived the last ever group of large, ferocious dinosaurs. For thousands, and thousands of years, they had survived all the changes on the Earth. Until one day, the mass extinction of dinosaur occurred in a nick of time. There are so many theoretical assumptions have been made by scientists to the cause of their extinction. Some made a theory such that it happens due to meteor with the size of the mountain, slammed into the Earth, drastically altered the climate. After such the terrible incident happen, almost all dinosaurs die. Their soft parts of the body, including skin and muscles, start to rot away. Before their bodies start to disappear completely, they are buried by sediment, which are usually mud, sand, or slit. As the time passed, many more layers of sediment build up on top, putting a lot of weight and pressure onto the layers below, and this eventually turning them into sedimentary rock, or fossil. As the existence of the ancient dinosaurs are nowhere to be seen in this modern world, there are so many experts from various type of careers interested in finding the frameworks of this ancient life. One day, there is a team, consists of many experts, including archaeologist, forensic, and scientist, made a research in determining the age of the fossil. They managed to secure the fragment of bones, which they believe, that the remains do not originate from animals that exist today. Then, they took the fossils to the laboratory, to make a research on the fossils, and analyze the age of the fossils. They decided to apply the carbon-14 dating method. Questions are, what is carbon-14 dating method? And why they choose this method? Let's dig into the topic deeply.
Carbon-14 dating is also known as radiocarbon dating method. It is one of the methods used to determine the age of fossil, which depends upon the decay to the nitrogen of radiocarbon. As we all know, carbon is one of the most essential elements in the living creature. For example, while plants are alive, they take in carbon through the process of photosynthesis. Meanwhile, human, and other animals, ingest carbon through plant-based food, or by eating other animals that eat plants. But, there are more than one type of carbon. Most carbon atoms has 6 protons, and 6 neutrons. We call this as carbon-12. High upon the atmosphere, sometimes cosmic ray hits nitrogen atom, it will result in carbon-14, which consists of 6 protons, and 8 neutrons. Both of these carbons behave alike. However, carbon-14 is unique and has important attribute. It is unstable. Once the animals die, the carbon-14 in their body will start to dissipate. In 5,600 years on the average, about half of carbon-14 will decay into nitrogen. This is called half-life. In first half-life, the animal has about half of its original amount of carbon-14 to start with. In the next half-life, it will have a quarter amount of the carbon-14 inside their body. And after the next half-life, it will have 1/8 of its original amount of carbon-14. The carbon-14 will keep on decaying into nitrogen in every half-life at constant rate. By contrast, the amount of carbon-12 will remain same.
By measuring the ratio of carbon-14 to carbon-12, we can measure how many years have already passed since the animal dies. Or in other words, the age of fossil. Now, let's check out how the process of carbon-14 dating method is being carried out. After the excavation of the fossil, the lab will test the bone to see how much protein remains in it, because it's the protein fraction of the bone that they actually date. Once they know that there is sufficient protein remaining, the surface of the bone must be cleared, so that contaminants like dirt, charcoal, or in some cases, glue, that the archaeologists have used to mend the bone fragments. The small sample of the cleaned bone is taken, and then, it is ground up into smaller pieces, to speed up the chemical reaction for the next stage. After that, the bone will undergo further treatments. The ground-up bone is treated with hydrochloric acid, which dissolves out the hard part of the bone. The remaining material goes through a gelatination process to free up the bone protein. Filtration during this phase allows contaminants to be successfully removed. The sample is then freeze-dried, to remove excess water. After this process, the resulting material has a spongy texture with an off-white color, in which this is actually the protein fraction within the bone. Now, the bone fragment is ready to be tested. The pre-treated sample is then undergo a series of chemical reactions. The purpose of this action is to convert all carbon atoms present into benzene. Then, scintillator chemical is added into the liquid-benzene sample. The liquid scintillation spectrometer counts the number of decays occurring per minute. Control samples are also measured at the same time. The decay events for each sample are measured over a week. Then, the analysis of data is carefully done, based on the results from the liquid scintillation spectrometer. It will provide a radiocarbon age for the sample.
Here I want to tell you how. Do we get this formula? Since this method is involving the decay of radioactive isotope, where carbon-14 decay exponentially, then the general equation for exponential decay of carbon-14 is the rate of change amount of carbon against time equal to K multiple with time, where K is a constant variable. Then we separate term A and term T, and we integrate both sides with respect to A and time, respectively. We want to leave equation in terms of the amount of carbon with corresponding to the time. Thus, we exponent both sides, and we will get this formula. Here we go. The formula that we will be using to find the age of the fossils.
Now, let's check how they determine the age of the fossil. As we know, half-life of carbon-14 is 5,600 years on average. After carry out so many processes, about 60% of carbon is found on it. So, what is the age of the fossil? Let's find out together. From the analytical computation, they conclude that the age of the fossil is approximately 4,127 years old. However, the age calculated here is just the relative age of the fossil, not the exact age. In addition, the carbon-14 dating method is only accurate for the items that are thousands to 10,000s of years old. Noted that most of the rocks are much older than this. Therefore, to get data with better accuracy, they must use elements with longer half-life.
After they have done their research, they decided to give the preserved bone fragment to the museum for exhibition.